Hello crafty friends. Today I'm going to share with you 5 more cards I've made with Spellbinders June card kit of the month. And for my first card I'm going to bring in a lovely rainbow stencil. I was inspired by some of the die cuts as well as the journaling cards. So I'm picked out some colours of distress inks, and I'm taking a Ultra New blending brush. This is a new set of blending brushes, and you get a small, medium and larger size. I'm using the smallest brush here, and in between colours I'm just brushing it off on a towel to remove any excess colour. So I'm doing the second lot of colour. I've chosen an orange ink there, and I'm just brushing that through the stencil. And this blending brush is really nice to hold. It feels like holding a pencil, and the brush end is actually small enough to get in between those very fine lines of the rainbow nice and neatly. So it was really quite a pleasant experience to use that brush. Just adding in now a lighter shade of pink, and I did have the caps up there for you to be able to see the name of the distress inks. And I'm just going through doing the main colours that are in the paper of the kits that I'm going to use. And starting back into the rainbow, and that's picked raspberry I'm using there. And the next colour, the more red toned, is the warm lipstick. It did take a little while to do this, but I really did enjoy doing the pattern of make my own pattern paper for the background here. And using the smaller brush here, I thought would be a better idea than using the slightly bigger brush. It just made it easier not to overlap or go into the next colour or the colour beside it. I'm just showing you there. I also then ran the piece of paper through my die cutting machine to give it some embossing. This is the little sun ephemera piece, and I have cut around the rays of it and then cut out a cute little smiley face from gold cardstock using the smiley face from the ice cream and popsicle die set I used in the previous video that I made cards for this card kit. I'm just now popping everything up on foam tape, and I applied a little glue as well to the foam tape just to give me that bit of wiggle room in case I needed to adjust it. I've picked out 3 different sentiments, and I'm tucking them in around the die cut pieces. So it will say sending sunshine, love and hugs, and then have a wild day. Going in and adding onto that little cheetah and a small acrylic bow, and then going over each of my sentiments with some glossy accent just to give it a bit more texture and a bit of shine. I just wanted a nice even thin coat over there so you'd be still able to read the sentiment quite easily when it dried. Card number 2. So I've chosen this paper that has a blue background, and to me it looks like confetti being sprinkled or thrown up in the air. I've cut myself a scalloped piece of paper using a lawn form scallop edge die, and then I've cut a straight edge piece of pattern paper to lay over top of that scallop. And that was a scrap of the floral paper from a previous card I made, and I'm just putting on some of the tape. I do like to use lots of tape. I know I've said in previous videos, I find that the paper sits much flatter and smoother if you can put the tape across most of the area. And I cut off that little piece and I keep that for a future card. Then I'm taking a piece of the light blued cardstock and I'm going to use that as a mat for this more apricot toned pattern paper. I'm going to glue that over my scalloped strip, but before I do that, I'm going to add another piece of the blue cardstock and pop another piece under the other side, just so it's level going over across that double layer of pattern paper. I'm attaching the hello sentiment from the die cuts, and then I've picked out this, to me it looks like a frangipani flower, and I'm going to pop that up on some foam tape. I'm just checking where I'm going to put the foam tape by holding it or putting it back over my sentiment strip there and making sure I've got foam tape in the right area. I'll remove those and then just play around a little bit with exactly where I want to put it. And I decided I want it up in that top corner. I was just showing you there from that wreath die cut, I have chopped it apart and then cut out this smaller flower. I wanted a smaller flower to balance the other side of the sentiment, and there just wasn't a small enough flower in the ephemera pack to do that. I've kept the rest of the wreath shape so I can use that again in another project. Just popping that on, and then I'm coming in with some sequins. Now sequins weren't included in this month's kit, but if you're like me, I'm sure you've got plenty from previous kits that you can add in. So I'm going to sprinkle them around both sides of my flower arrangement area, tucking them under there. And then I needed to add one more because I just liked it better with an odd number. And then getting my glossy accents again, and I'm going to add a little shine to those. I fill in each of my sequins, and that tends to give you more like a gem finish on the sequins. I think it's quite pretty. I don't do it all the time. And there's that card finished. For card number 3, I was still feeling quite colourful, and I enjoy colouring in. So I thought I'd take this pretty number background paper and I'd colour it in to give it a bit of a different look and to match back in with the pattern papers in the kit. I'm using a variety of Zig clean colour pens, and for the colours like the blue and the dark teal and the deep red pink that's in the kit, I've gone ahead and used my Posca colouring pencils to colour those in. Now I'm not aiming for a perfection in my colouring in. I'm looking to give it a bright and cheerful look. So just finishing off with the deep red pink, and I leave the number 5 white. Now I have used this pretty green stripe paper, and I'm going to use that to frame up the cake paper. I've just cut a strip of the cake paper, and I've tried to cut it so that I had a nice even line of cakes running up and down like a border. To that, I'm bringing in some Love from Lizzie gold moon dust peel-offs to give another touch of gold and a little bit of sparkle to the card. Just lining it up. these ones are quite easy to use. I find the moon dust ones, or these ones in particular, are a bit stiffer and easier to apply. I was just showing you there that I've taken the picked raspberry distress ink and ran that around the edge of my pattern paper just to lift it up off the white background of the card. I've cut myself a little doily out of the blue pattern paper, and that's a Club La Land die. Now I'm going to attach the pattern paper strip there. That's my main focal image for the card. And then I've taken this ephemera piece to use as a sentiment. I've gone around the edges of it with some pieces of the Love from Lizzie Pierlos, and I'm going to make this into like a hanging picture using some green and white twine and just tying it so the knots will be hidden to the back. I get a little piece of washi tape to tape those ends down so that they sit nice and flat. I'll then trim off the excess doily and paper that was overlapping on the card edge, and I attach my little frame sentiment to the top there. I've also added in a gold zigzag trim along one side of the card, and then some hunky-dory blue gems. For card number 4, I've cut myself a pink mat, a little bit smaller, about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card base itself. I'm using the blue doily piece that I cut off from the previous card, and I'm going to place it onto the pink background along with a little bit of our gold foil card. With this frame, I've gone around and used some thin strips of foam tape to pop it up, and then I'm going to use this pretty birthday cake that I went over with a sparkle pen. And then I've grabbed this pretty little banner and I've put foam tape on just the ends so that I can then overlap it across the pretty frame there. Adding those blocks just to hold it down while the glue dries. I've got the word celebrate from the kit and gluing that on as well. Now I'm just showing you that this is a die from your next stamp, and I've cut that out. It makes all these really pretty confetti pieces, which I thought was perfect for the theme of this card. So I've just placed out where I think I want my die cuts, and I'm going to glue each of those on. And the great thing about that die was that it cuts multiple different styles of confetti in different shapes. And even better, I only purchased it a month or so ago from the sales section on their website, so it was a great price as well. Just going through, adding in those little bits of gold card to create interest in the background and to add some shimmer and shine to the card. This piece of streamer I cut in half because I wanted to tuck it in to that frame to make it look like that it was actually behind the frame. Just gives it a little bit more dimension and adds to the layering effect. Now I felt like it needed some more confetti pieces, so I've gone ahead and grabbed a few more pieces, and I'm just scattering those in some of the empty spaces. This little one being a bit tricky, so I grab my tool and one and just give it a bit of a hand to slip under the celebrate. And I'm adding in a pretty pink bow to the bottom of my cake stand there. And that's my card finished. For card number 5, I've taken a Polaroid photo frame and I'm going to make a shaker card. Now I've cut the base layer out of a piece of thick craft card that I had. I've glued to the front the pattern paper that has all the cute animals on. I'm adding my acetate, then I've added a layer of foam around the edges of the frame, and I'm placing in some of the gold sequins into the main frame area and behind the little cutout of the heart. I will actually, once the card is finished, go around and trim the acetate that's overlapping the edges there. I'm just going in and adding some pretty beads to the shaker and then a little bit of glitter. Some pretty yellow shapes there, and then the next one has smaller yellow and pink toned glitter in it as well. I like to add in the seed beads and the bugle beads because it gives it a nice rattly sound when you do shake it. I went around and I did an extra layer of foam tape because I wanted it to be able to shake freely. And there's the shaker part finished. Now I'm just adhering this striped paper for my card background. I'm going to use an orange background for my shaker, so I'm using the frame part to help line up the inside part, which will back my shaker card. And it's pretty easy to line it up then. I've chosen to use this cute giraffe to go on the front of my photo frame. Just placing him in that corner there so you can see the shaker and see the heart. I've taken this sentiment from the die cuts and I've used my punch there to make a hole, and I've doubled up some twine to make a little tassel. So I cut those shorter and then I put a little knot in each of the threads just to prevent them from fraying. It also reminded me a little bit of how giraffes' tails look knotty on the end. So I'm going to pop that on with some foam tape and a little bit of glue, and then down the bottom I'm adding 2 of the gold sequins and a little heart cut out from one of the frames I cut to make the card. I'm going to go over the heart with some gloss there, and then I'm also going to add the glossy accent into the center of the sequence. I go over the happy in the sentiment just with a very light hand. I just want a little bit of shine on those so that they pop out as well, giving a little bit more dimension. And that's my card finished. And here's one final look at the 5 cards I've made today using the Spellbinders card kit of the month for June 2021. If you haven't checked out the first video, I'd love for you to go and have a look. And I'd like to take this chance to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed to my channel and for your support. And if you haven't subscribed, I would very much appreciate you helping me grow my channel. Until next time, bye-bye for now.